This is Tate's best friend.
I've been around Tate more than anyone else outside his family the last 5 years. He's lived in my house. I've lived in his house. We've travelled together.
Who is Sartorial Shooter?
Try to avoid that question. You asked it twice.
Who is the real Tate? Do you think that jail has changed him?
When Tate was released, I did cry quite heavily.
I bet you're tearing up right now, man.
Yeah, well, I care about those brothers. It was an amazing moment to see them come out.
You said that you had some exciting updates that have yet to be shared online.
Yes, indeed. So
you live a nice life. You came here in a nice Ferrari. If you had to say the top 3 qualities that you had to instill in yourself to reach that level, what would you say those main 3 qualities are for you? How exactly did you meet Andrew? Were you planning on being with him by the time he got arrested?
When he went in prison, everyone's like, oh, do you think he'll get run up on? If his cellmate starts trouble, I feel sorry for the cellmate.
How has your life changed since you've joined Islam?
He's an incredible orator. He speaks so well.
How does he do that? How does he speak that well? You were always the guy in the background. Why did Andrew choose you to be his closest?
When I started spending time with the Tates at first, man, it was exhausting.
Would you take a bullet for him?
I've only ever seen Tate chill once, and I can tell you the story. I haven't told it before. I've had consequences. I've had people make threats against my family.
Welcome back to the show, the podcast where we discuss business, personal finance, self-improvement, and happiness. Today we have a very special guest, Joule, aka the Sartorial Shooter. Joule, thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure, brother. Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking this invite. I know you're a very private guy, extremely private, if I may say. And today he's coming here to tell us a bit about who he is. This is Tate's best friend. To quote Tate's exact words, the closest thing I have to family that isn't family.
Yep.
Damn. So this is going to be very interesting. He has some updates that have never been said before about Andrew Tate as well, which we're going to hear as an exclusive on the show. So really appreciate you coming on here today, brother. I hope that we can talk a bit about the truth and about your story, where you came from. Why did Tate choose you out of everybody in the world to become this close to him? And I know that Andrew is somebody who doesn't trust people easily.
Ain't that the truth?
Right? So let's talk about Sartorial Shooter. Who is Sartorial Shooter?
All right, bro. So first of all, to address the privacy thing, I was always the guy in the background with Tate, and I was happy with that.
Yeah.
I was saying no consistently to podcast requests and the like. I've changed that stance simply because I strongly, on a deep level, believe and I see the positive impact Tate has and his various products and the communities that he's built. I see the positive benefit Tate has on humanity. Like it's a pretty big picture thing. Yeah. And so while I prefer being private, I mean, yes, I have fun on Instagram. I show cars and lifestyle, whatever, but I haven't actually spoken that much. Over the last few weeks, I've changed that because while my privacy is important to me and indeed professionally, it's not that useful for me to be, out there, out of brotherhood for Tate and also out of a strong belief in the importance of speaking truth. I think it's a pretty important thing. I need to speak up, and because I've been around Tate more than anyone else outside his family the last 5 years, literally hundreds of days. He's lived in my house. I've lived in his house. We've traveled together. It is my duty as a man who cares about humanity and who is committed in the fight against shaitan. Let's be real. There's a lot of satanic agendas being pushed with all this liberal religion of wokeism. It's my duty to accept that I'll sacrifice the privacy thing and come out and go loud. So I'm going very loud. Even sitting here talking to you. It's
way outside the zone.
I mean, there are risks involved and there are negatives, but the positives greatly outweigh that. If I can help Tate, my brother from another mother in any way, then of course I'll do that. That's what brothers are about, right?
Nice, yeah. I agree. So who is Sartorial Shooter?
I tried to avoid that question. You asked it twice. So, mate, I'm Australian. I grew up in Oz. I joined the army as soon as I was legally able to. Started as a soldier. Went overseas. They found out that I was good at languages. I was brought into another specialist area, learned a bunch of other languages, and then I saw a lot of the world, which was great. Did various tasks and joined the private security sector, which I've been in for the last 15 years, Middle East space. So I've lived in Iran for 2.5 years, lived in Syria.
Iran. I've been to Iran.
Okay, how's your Farsi?
It's okay. Farsi balad nistan.
Okay, no worries.
You speak Farsi?
Yes, I do. Brother.
Full Farsi?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah,
That's wild. An Australian speaking Farsi.
It's unusual. It's a good party trick. People don't believe it. So actually, I used to have fun when I was in Iran because the way I look, no one would think that I speak Farsi.
No way.
And the amount of times I'd play little pranks. For example, I'd walk into a shop looking to buy a carpet, traditional Iranian experience. And they'd say, in a playful way, look, this guy looks like he's got some cash. Let's give him a nice, nice price, referring to the fact
they say that?
Yeah,
in front of you?
Yeah. But in Farsi, thinking I don't understand. So I'd play the dumb tourist and okay, this one's nice, that one's nice. And then right at the end, I drop in street Farsi, not formal Farsi. Brothers, you know, I may be a foreigner, but I'd like a local price. Can we make that happen? And just watching their face go white. And then we'd shake hands and be friends. And, you know,
they get so happy when they see that.
I used to have a lot of fun with it, definitely. Lived in Syria as well, a lot of time in Iraq. A lot of time all
Iraq
throughout.
Also I've been.
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
nice.
I've been to Kadmain, Samarra, Baghdad, Najaf.
Fantastic. So much history in that country. And I have a lot of Iraqi friends, very close friends. I really do feel for the struggle that country's been through. And I genuinely pray that life gets easier for Iraqis, you know, going forward. It's not been an easy few decades, right?
Honestly, 100%.
Yeah,
and the worst thing is they claim that they came there to give them freedom. They just...
That's a deep discussion, brother. Yeah, indeed. I think the military-industrial complex is real. I think the endless war phenomenon that we see is real. And what hurts me is seeing desperately poor countries and non-combatants specifically in desperately poor countries suffering as a result of, you know, the military-industrial complex.
I agree.
And if we want to talk about zakat, the zakat that I try to give to, or do give the most, is non-combatants in war zones. I mean, when I was we can talk a little bit about what I do. I was evacuating families out of Ukraine when the war started.
Wow, really?
Bringing out dozens and dozens of families, young children, man, young, you know, and they got a backpack on, the same backpack you'd see kids go to school in Dubai with, but instead their whole life's in that backpack. You know, and children after children, little ones, babies, women. To me, that's the saddest part of war. And I personally. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about my background. I'm not the sort of guy who needs to do that out of professionalism. But I don't think there's much glory or honor in modern day war. I mean, of course, I respect the soldier who fights what he believes in. But when you see the repercussions of modern day conflicts and you see so many non-combatants, the little people getting affected, man, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. And so that's the area that I try and give zakat to, that women and children in war zones. And also Tates are getting a lot more public about their philanthropy.
I've seen some of you have a video recently where you were like feeding 2,000 people, and apparently Andrew and Tristan had donated in that.
Yeah, they've been giving a lot for a long time. The only difference is now Andrew's like, no, go public. He's been really active in many different ways, but now I think also as part of becoming Muslim, yes, there's an argument that zakat should be quiet. I get that. But if you're a public figure and a role model for many and you're giving zakat, I think you should show it because it inspires other people to do it.
Agree.
And also, he's actually hired somebody. He's hired somebody with relevant experience to go and find useful charities to give to. That's how committed he is. He's hired someone full time and said, "You are now in charge of my charitable initiatives." It's beautiful. So you'll see a lot more of that from him.
Amazing. Yeah. So guys, if you don't know, zakat is basically the Muslim kind of charity thing that it's called zakat, which is basically paying a portion of our wealth or our income over the year to charities. Also, it's interesting that you said about the kids, because, you know, there's this quote which is like, I don't know who won the war, but I know who paid the price. You know, it's a video of all these kids, you know.
So true, man.
And it's so sad
true,
because in the end of the day, like, you know, Iraq and Iran has the 4th most oil in the world, and Iraq has the 5th. And they had so much potential, but then, you know, war and this and that, and now they can't, you know, sanctions, and it feels a bit unjust, you know, sometimes.
I think it's deeply unjust.
Yeah.
And again, I steer clear of talking about politics, especially when there's a microphone in my face. But what we can talk about is the fact that many, like, man, if anyone's living in the West, if you got a Western passport and you got a, you know, you're not hungry, you're doing well.
Yeah.
And so whenever I see Westerners 100%. Or people in the first world complaining about anything, they need to spend a bit of time in the countries where I built my career. Because so many people, including non-combatants, women and children, are suffering on a day-to-day basis. Again, if you've got that Western passport and you're going to bed not hungry and you know, you have safety, these sorts of things, you should wake up every day and be aggressively grateful for what you've got.
100%.
And so, yeah, I really, when my kids are a bit old, I've got an 8-year-old daughter, 10-year-old son. When they hit their early teens, I want to take them to some of these, you know, in a safe way. Really poor places and say, look, see that guy there, whether we're talking, you know, somewhere in Africa or, you know, somewhere remote in India, that individual could work their whole life and not have the opportunities you have.
True.
So as someone born in the Western world, one, you've got zero reason to be negative about anything, you know, and two, you better achieve. Yeah. If you've been born with such opportunities, you better fulfill those opportunities. So that's something I'm pretty passionate about.
Damn, yeah. Honestly, you should do that. It'd be very eye-opening, I think, for them, and very
exactly
help them grow a lot. So why were you in Iran and Iraq?
I keep trying to talk away from me, and you keep bringing it back. I like it. You're following.
I don't want to just ask about Andrew. You know, a lot of people might have you on a podcast and just ask you about the Tates.
I'm happy to just talk about the Tates. Well, okay, fair enough. So I'm a trained investigator, and you're pursuing the line of questioning to its logical conclusion. So props to you, mate. So yeah, I was in the private security sector, which means many things. In the past, I've worked as a bodyguard. I've worked as the individual who does security reviews and comes up with mitigation measures for mega facilities, for large projects. So CCTV, guard orders, access control. I've dealt with kidnaps, dealt with many evacuations.
Wow.
Arab Spring was a very busy time for me. And also a lot of investigations as well, so dealing with people who make threats.
Like a private investigator, kind of.
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
Yeah.
But now I'm at the point where it's management. So I will deploy to certain countries if I need to, for example, with Ukraine.
You were there personally, yeah?
Yeah, indeed. But for the most part, I manage different specialists around the world. And it's very meaningful work. I mean, there's not much. I think people think like being a bodyguard or something like that is somehow glamorous. It's not. it's long hours and it's pretty dull. But when you do things like when you resolve a kidnap case, you get someone back to their family. When you conduct evacuations and you get people out of war zones, it is very meaningful. So I'm very grateful for that line of work.
Yeah, it's interesting because you say it's fulfilling, and they did a survey. I think they interviewed it was a lot of people, and basically they asked them, "What is your job now?"
Mm-hmm.
And they asked them what would be a fulfilling job. And for the fulfilling job, a lot of the people on the survey said something like a fireman or a doctor or a soldier in the military. And they found that the correlation between all these jobs was a certain level of pain.
Interesting, some struggle.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It's so interesting that we think that our whole lives we're trying to avoid it, but actually pain is sometimes what brings us the most fulfillment.
And the way I put it is, especially as a man, we need that sense of mission. A bit of risk helps. I think the key thing is we need quality problems.
Yeah,
and I think that's if you want quality problems dealt with men you respect.
Yeah,
that sums up all of those lines of work, which are quite satisfying. And if you bring in a bit of risk, and if you bring in a bit of hardship, getting out in the field, not eating right or sleeping right for a while, then coming back, you really do appreciate. Clean clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't say full belly because I'm fasting, so I'm hungry now. But
usually full belly.
Yeah, you appreciate the smaller things, definitely. And I think I'm very blessed to have meaningful work in my life. I think it's a real form of wealth. I know a lot of people who just have money, but they haven't had that struggle. They haven't had that sense of brotherhood, and they don't have quality problems in their lives. Let's say, again, with respect, let's say you're a trader, and your job is to sit in front of a screen and trade.
Yeah.
I would never want that existence. You give me all the money in the world. What have you done? What have you contributed? You know what I mean? So I'm very grateful for a line of work where I'm making a real impact on the people that I serve. Yeah. And the brothers that I work with, we go through some challenging stuff, and then we have clear wins.
Nice.
I choose my existence over being a billionaire trader any day.
Nice. And I like that you said it's about having quality problems, because people think that a life without problems is what they want, but a life without problems is a life without happiness, because happiness is when you solve problems.
The term happiness, I take some objection with that. I think this is my philosophy.
Yeah, I'm very open to hear it.
I think happiness comes and goes. I think it's a mood, and this is something Tate talks about very clearly as well. Whereas fulfillment, that's something to aim for. It doesn't matter how you feel. I think discipline. I often say discipline decisions daily, and that's something I learned from Tate. Tate puts in a certain amount of reps with a certain amount of weight every day, regardless of how he feels. Regardless, I mean, thankfully we don't drink anymore, which I'm very happy about. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
But even before, when there was all night drinking, 2 hours sleep, off to the gym as soon as you wake up.
Wow.
Like just that discipline, doing meaningful work, having people you want around you. None of this really, to me, ties into happiness, but it does tie into fulfillment. So that's my goal. I don't care about my mood. I don't care about my emotions. I want to wake up every day saying every part of my reality is what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, very blessed materially, amazing friends, meaningful work. I'm fulfilled. I know that I'm making the right decisions in my life. So I don't use the word happiness.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Makes sense. A lot of sense. Just using that as like an umbrella term. But actually, yeah, you're right. What we're chasing is not happiness, because happiness is just like a short-term fleeting thing.
And you can get happiness from drugs. You can get happiness from hedonism. You can get happiness from
true.
unhealthy ways.
Yeah.
You can't get fulfillment from drugs. No. You can't get fulfillment from hedonism.
Like that long-term kind of peaceful feeling.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I'm grateful to have discovered Islam. If you're seeking a really fulfilling existence and you don't have a relationship with God, you don't have somewhere you can go and forget all the problems of dunya, of the world, and speak to what you perceive to be the higher force in the world, and to have that extra element below the material and the surface, then I think you're really missing a trick. So I don't think it's possible to have real fulfillment without strong faith. Without strong faith. I really believe that.
Yeah, honestly, because I remember for me as a kid, I always said like I want to have financial success, personal and spiritual. And I think you need all three. Without spiritual, you're living a life of nihilism. You're just waiting to die, and
you're missing out on a real core part of the human experience.
Right. Definitely. I tell people sometimes, let's say you don't believe that God exists, but if you're gonna live a life, and you know that having a God just outweighs not having a God 10 times. Why would you not just have someone there that you can believe in? You know what I mean?
That's it, man. Show me a fulfilled atheist. I'm yet to meet one.
True.
They tend to be pretty grumpy and pretty unhappy and angry at the world and spending a lot of time on Twitter.
And on debates.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. They're just fighting. Right. So we're going to talk about, you were always the guy in the background and recently you decided to come out. I wanted to ask you, why did Andrew choose you to be his closest friend?
Interesting question. I think with people like Andrew and I, and indeed a lot of, I'd say that the men who are, really doing well in all the different areas of life, there's a value economy. Yeah. I'm not Andrew's friend because I make good jokes or, I take good selfies or something. Yeah? I add value to his life. Yeah. I add value to his life and he adds value to mine. Now, if we want to break that down, what are the different ways you can add value to someone's life? Typically, it'd be practical value.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you've built what you've built, you told me you bring, people who come in and they don't know the city, you show them the city, you introduce them to good people. Yeah. So you're adding value to them.
Yeah, 100%.
They then add value to you by coming on your podcast. Exactly. Everyone wins. It's a similar dynamic, I think, with all of the people at the top, if you will, in their fields. I added value to his life in numerous ways. And he added a lot of value to, I've learned a lot from Andrew. He's added a lot of value to pretty much every area of my life.
Yeah.
He's an incredible orator. He speaks so well.
Amazing.
He channels incredible insights.
How does he do that? How does he speak that well?
It's a tricky one. I think he has a very strong intellect from his dad, but his dad wasn't just smart. His dad was very intense and very clear on principles and very driven to find truth. And so Andrew came in and his dad was very masculine, very driven, and Andrew's dad imparted that drive into his son, and to both of them, Andrew and Tristan. Tristan has an incredible intellect as well.
True.
I really hope Tristan chooses to speak out more because his insights in the human condition, his view of the world is incredible to listen to. They're both very different in their intelligence as well as guys. But from an early age, they had a role model who was very masculine, very principled, very driven for truth, very much rejecting the programming of society. Their dad from an early age taught them governments aren't necessarily in your favor. Modern day culture doesn't necessarily want the best for you. All these different things. So they almost, I don't want to say took the red pill, but they from an early age, they thought with their own minds as opposed to what society was telling them to think. And so at the earliest of age, they were analyzing what they saw around them. And you bring that into, adulthood, that's someone who has a lot of learning and a lot of insights to share. And I really do believe, I don't want to say anything that's inappropriate, but I believe Andrew has a level of insight that is so rare, you could classify him as some sort of messenger. I don't necessarily mean in a religious sense. I don't want to say anything that's shirk, obviously. Yeah. But I think the amount of insights that Andrew channels has the real potential to help humanity on a very deep level. Yeah. We have this religion of wokeism. We have all this modern degeneracy, especially now that Andrew has found Islam and is more and more reflecting on what matters in life and how to live a good life and inspiring people and leaving a legacy on humanity. Like Andrew has the ears of the youth, right? And how you shape the youth is how you shape humanity. These people will become future leaders. So he's very much aware of the fact that it's now his duty with, the insights he was given from his dad and all he's learned over the years. And of course, guided by his faith, to leave a very clear and very positive impact on humanity. And that's why I support him so strongly. Look, I like Andrew. He's my bro. But the reason why I'm going public, the reason why I will literally sacrifice pretty much anything in my life to support him isn't just because he's my bro. It's because I see the importance and the positivity of his message and how that has such an important role to play when humanity is at a real crossroads. There are so many different influences trying to push humanity towards bless you, towards degeneracy, towards hedonism, push away from traditional gender roles, which I think are very important. That leads to fulfillment, as we were talking about. That want to make men docile and sheepish and make women masculine and inherently unfulfilled. Andrew's words have the potential to offset all of that negative direction. Yeah. And I think it's very important. That's why I'm here.
Nice.
But to answer your question, brother, why did Andrew choose me? I added value first practically in numerous ways. I have a very particular set of skills, built over a long career, if you know that quote. So I helped practically in numerous ways, but then it became a brotherhood thing. And so he uses me as a sounding board for many of his, Andrew's Andrew. No one's managing Andrew. People say I'm his manager. No one is managing Andrew. Spend some time with Andrew. No one manages him. But what he does like is to bounce ideas off those he trusts. So I am that guy. Obviously Tristan is
brainstorm,
that guy as well.
Think out loud kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so he values the insights I have, and the perspective I bring is risk. I have a master's degree in risk management.
Really?
I've been to about 90 countries and worked in pretty much every active war zone over the last 15 years. So I understand risk pretty well. And as someone who's, in the past protected very high profile people, I understand the physical security piece too. So I can add value that way. But also the brotherhood thing, and just having someone who you feel you can trust and you can really connect with and speak openly with, he values that. And so I think that's why he's chosen me. But it was a very slow process. Yeah. He actually admitted for the first year of our friendship, he didn't fully trust me. So he was doing his research on me based on my mannerisms, based on, what I said, how I conducted myself before he fully trusted me. And I think all men should be like that.
Yeah.
Who you let into your inner circle is a very... Men should conceptualize. They need to be very careful. Have
the most important
have
thing,
a tight circle. Don't have a lot of people in your home, and really vet those friends so that you can rely on them to the end.
For me, 100%, hands down, by far, the most important action that had the most impact in my life was cutting out a lot of my friends.
Awesome. And how old are you?
I'm 20 now.
Wow, man. See, a lot of people don't realize that until it's too late and they're in their 30s or 40s. Like, that's fantastic.
It's often the hardest thing to do because, sometimes these are the people that you grew up with. They might have been there for you during a lot of hard times. But at the end of the day, where you're going in life, you have to know where you're going in. They say, show me your friends, I'll show you my future. Are the friends around you? Are they on that same mission? And how well are they doing at that? You know what I mean?
Fantastic. I think it's a frequency thing too. I haven't quite got my head around this, but when I started spending time with the Tates at first, man, it was exhausting.
Okay.
Like they don't sleep much. Back then there was a lot of drinking. Tates will train 3 times a day as normal. Max intensity. God. Like they just hit it all the time. They'll train the same muscle groups every day for like 10 days in a row.
Jeez.
There's just this intense, constant output, constant work, zero chill. At first that was exhausting for me.
He's in great shape.
No, that's it.
Great shape.
People trying to say he takes steroids. I know Tate. Tate couldn't be bothered taking steroids.
Yeah.
Like he just
he doesn't take anything external anyways. He doesn't do any drugs. So why would he put like
on principle?
And his most important thing is testosterone. He's not gonna do something that's gonna worry about having he won't be able to have kids later or stuff like that. You would never risk that.
Yeah, exactly. On principle, he'd never touch any forms of steroid, but also
time.
He couldn't be bothered. Like literally, he couldn't be bothered. He's got money to make. He's not going to measure out certain drugs and put it in his body. He wouldn't do that.
He's always working. He's relentless.
Exactly. And bro, with training too, he smashes himself all the time, max intensity every day, and he's naturally very muscular. So of course he's going to look good. But yeah, those first few times that I'd spend like a week with Tates, I'd need a week or two to recover. I was exhausted. Whereas over the years, I developed my stress capacity, or capacity to deal with stress. I developed my inherent hunger to win every day.
Yeah.
I developed my ability to operate on little sleep. Yeah. And so I picked up my frequency so that now when I'm rolling with the Tates, I don't get tired. And if anything, if I'm not at that level of frequency of output, of training, of conquest, of learning, of developing, of winning every day, I almost feel like something's missing. So to your point, the friends you have around you, the frequency they're at will either lift you up or pull you down.
100%.
And my example with the Tates is perfect. I used to get tired. I used to be stressed. That's all gone now because I've been around those guys so much, and they don't have any capacity for tiredness or stress. I was there when Tate was in the midst of cancellation. He was losing his social media. He was losing his banking, his payment processes, his websites, everything. Journalists were coming after him. Journalists were coming after his family. Zero stress.
No way.
Bro, I was there. Zero stress. He was frustrated, but he wasn't concerned. He wasn't stressed. He wasn't scared.
Unfazed.
He's like, these are the pieces on the chessboard. What's my next move? Damn. Genuine resilience, genuine stress, capacity to deal with stress. When you're around that sort of thing, it's going to pick up your ability to do the same. So yeah, selecting the right men for your tribe, your circle, because we're pack animals. We're not designed to be lone wolves.
Yeah.
Getting that high frequency. Oh yeah, exactly. Getting that high frequency tribe around you is super important for your own success.
Damn. That's very interesting. Question. Would you take a bullet for him? Andrew Tate?
I mean, look, I'd prefer to to resolve the situation before it came to that.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, a lot of people, when it comes to executive protection, they think it's about, bring out a weapon and shooting people. If you are at the point where you need to reach for your weapon, you've already made a series of mistakes. And Andrew himself, he's a hard target. He's pretty aware himself.
Yeah,
So I'm not concerned for Andrew's physical.
He's switched on.
Yeah, exactly. As far as principles go, as far as people who are protected by bodyguards, he's pretty switched himself. And man's got hands.
Yeah.
Like when he went in prison, everyone's like, "Oh, do you think he'll get run up on? What if his cellmate starts?" And I'm like, if his cellmate starts trouble, I feel sorry for the cellmate.
True.
Like Tate is seriously
He
about
probably ran that prison. That's gonna be so interesting to hear him talk about. I bet he went in there straight away, like, listen, you're gonna be this guy. Like he probably made like a bit of an army with
it.
it.
As
like,
I understand it, he's very good at building relationships, and Real recognizes Real in places like prison. As I understand it, he was well respected, and he built relationships well with the other people there.
I was gonna ask you actually, like, were you planning on being with him in Romania when the time he got arrested, or like why weren't you there?
I didn't know they were going to Romania. Okay. Actually, I think as I understand it, that was just a quick decision to do that
for Christmas, I think, or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've been to Romania a lot. I've been in their houses, and this is why when everyone says, "Oh, they're trafficking this and that," I've been with them in Romania. I've seen women. I've seen the parties. Trust me, the only challenge that the Tates face in regards to women is getting women to leave. There's no desire or logical reason for him to detain anybody. It's simply not real, and so that's why the truth will come out. My personal estimate is another couple of months. At the end of the day, this investigation process has been going for pretty much a year now. And I understand, as a former guy who worked for, the Australian military and other areas of my country, I understand that investigations take time.
Yeah.
But the truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth.
And these guys are going to be released, and they are going to be found. They're either not going to be charged, because it's just the credibility of those making the allegations is just not there. And there's a lot of evidence to show that Tates didn't do this sort of thing. And logically, it just doesn't stand up. Or they'll be charged and then found innocent in a judicial process. They are the only.
So when are you
credible.
expecting to see them completely free?
I believe a couple of months. I really do, inshallah. I really do. Because the truth is the truth, man.
Yeah.
And again, I can understand why various judicial bodies in Romania would investigate based on the lies they were told. But the truth is still the truth, and the investigative process or the judicial process will demonstrate that. The Tates will be completely free. All the haters are going to lose their mind. But again, the truth is the truth. And inshallah, I'd say my best bet, couple of months. Again, inshallah, that they'll be completely free.
Do you think the system's a bit weird? The fact that they do this thing called preventative arrest, and they keep someone 6 months, they're allowed to keep up to 6 months inside while they're just finding out. It's kind of like guilty until proven innocent. You know what I mean?
Again, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not read in on their. I don't communicate with their lawyers. I'm their mate. I'm not in any official capacity representing them. I'm speaking up because I care about these guys, and as I said, I believe their message is incredibly important. On a personal level, I think preventative detention is something that you could argue is unethical, but also, professionally speaking, I mean, what right do I have to judge that country and its laws? Yeah, it's not really something I need to give comment on. I do think it's a scary thought that you could be held based on.
Right now, we want the Romanian government to be happy with us.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a scary thought that you could be detained for months based on lies. The reality is, those two brothers just did 3 months in in a prison that's not exactly 5-star for something they didn't do. Personally, I find that to be terrifying, and I give them a lot of respect for staying stoic and staying level-headed throughout that process. But can you imagine doing 3 months in prison for something you didn't do? True. For something that came about based on absolute lies.
And all your cars are getting impounded and at the same time. And
as I understand it, the cars, all that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is clearing the name and the truth being known.
No, of course, that's the first priority. Yeah,
but man, to answer your question, I think the idea of preventative arrest is pretty scary. But the truth is the truth, and the truth will win, and the brothers will be out soon, inshallah.
The truth is like a lion. No one has to protect it.
Yeah,
that's a quote from our Sahaba of the Prophet. Anyways,
that's awesome.
So who is the real Tate, and do you think that jail has changed him?
Who is the real Tate? Okay, so, I mean, as someone who's in his inner circle, I know him pretty well. The real Tate, when it comes to daily interactions, is very respectful, very logical. Never once have I seen him angry, not once. I mean, he's pretty vibrant when he's in front of the camera, but on a personal level, he has such control over his emotions. I've never even once seen him raise his voice at anyone ever. He's a very calm guy. I mean, you've interacted with him, right? He's very, very grounded, very respectful. I've never even seen him be rude to a waiter or you know, somebody serving him on a jet. He's a polite, respectful individual. That's the real Tate. He's also he's a deep thinker. The conversations we have, you know, typically once the day's work is done, and we'll sit around, we'll talk about religion, we'll talk about truth, we'll talk about the meaning of life. Like, he's a very introspective guy who's always seeking truth. You know, he's a very curious man who wants to understand, you know, life and the human experience as well as he can. That's why I think it was inevitable that he'd find Islam, because for me, Islam is the clearest system with which to perceive the human experience and to live a good life. There is another side of Tate where he is an entertainer. And he likes, you know, the big statements, and he does seek out controversy. I mean, the man has mastered the attention economy, right? He knows how to bring attention and then monetize it.
How to poke the right places and to make people triggered and get them to talk about him.
Yeah, and so he's also very much a chess player. He views life as a form of combat. And he won't stop. He could have $1 billion. He would still be wanting combat every day, wanting challenge, wanting conquest. There's no stop to that man's work ethic. Yeah. So I'd say, very respectful, very grounded, also a very capable entertainer, but just fiercely driven for conquest. The main thing about Tate, every day he wants to conquer. Every day
he wants to push himself.
He wants the most out of every workout he does. He absolutely crushes himself. Like, you see him at the end of a set, the man's in pain. There is no moderate intensity for that man in any area of life. And I think that's part of the reason why he's such a role model for so many young men. He is walking the walk. He is every single day giving his best effort on everything ever. I've only ever seen Tate chill once, and I can tell you the story. I haven't told it before.
Yes,
we were on a catamaran in Croatia, and, you know, lots of sun and talking and training. We bought dumbbells to bring onto the boat so we could train every day. You know, still online, working all the day. As the sunset was going down, it was really beautiful. And it was so beautiful to the point that Tate put away the devices and just sat there and enjoyed the nature, which is rare because usually he's busy. After that, he went and he sat on that, you know, the net at the front of the catamaran. Yeah. Where, you know, you can see the water. And I think he was meditating a bit.
I saw that clip. Was that the one he's like, welcome to the real world, and he jumps in the water? Was that the one?
Yeah, it was on that boat. So he went and sat on that sort of trampoline on the catamaran, and I think he might have been meditating or something. And he sort of lay on his side, and he almost fell asleep. Yeah. So that's the first time I've ever seen him chill. Now, naturally, Tristan and I saw an opportunity. So we snuck off the back of the boat, swam under the catamaran, and just as he was falling asleep, the one time I've seen him look peaceful and relaxed, Tristan and I crept up quietly and then splashed him and screamed, shark, shark, shark. So he woke up ready to fight. So the one time I've seen him relax ever, his brother and I absolutely punked him. So there isn't much chill with the Tates. Yeah. But that's to my point. He is on all the time, and he is working and conquering and training all the time. So it's not a surprise that he's built what he's built in terms of his life, and that he motivates so many young men to try and go out and build, you know, their best version of themselves and their best reality as well.
Nice. Before we stop talking about Andrew, I wanted to ask you said that you had some exciting updates that have yet to be shared online.
Yes, indeed.
What are those?
Yes, indeed. So I talk to Tate every day, and I think the key thing to put forward is, because he understands his situation better than everyone, right? He is extremely positive now. I mean, in jail, there were some dark days. There was some, you know, what's going to happen here. Now he's extremely positive. He has full clarity that this is towards the end of this saga. He has 100% conviction that it's only a matter of time, and this is, you know, over the coming months, not years, that his name will be cleared. And so again, as I can't speak about the legal situation, I'm not officially representing him. What I can say is, I've seen a change in Tate now that he knows that this whole thing is almost over. Now, he's always known because he knows what he has and hasn't done, but now he recognizes that the process is playing itself out to the point where he will be released. And seeing that load off his shoulders, where he knows that the truth is being recognized by all the different entities involved in the investigation, has really made him lighten up a bit. I see him being a little bit more free and relaxed and happy, because he now knows, through that dark time of prison and all that mess, that the investigation process is reaching a point where the truth will be clear and no one can debate that.
Nice.
So it's very positive, man. The Tate energy, if you will, is lighter than I've seen it in many months, and he is more positive than I've seen in many months, which is great. The truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth.
And now the people who need to realize that are getting to the point where, after a very long investigation, that is the end state they're coming to.
Nice.
So, inshallah.
I mean, so question then. Joule, you live a nice life. You came here in a nice Ferrari. You have some nice cars, you know, nice house. You know, you've reached a level of success that a lot of people aspire to reach. If you had to say the top 3 qualities that you had to instill in yourself to reach that level, because this you're a very inspirational guy without you realizing it. But a lot of people want to live the life that you live. What would you say those main 3 qualities are for you? And it might be very different for you because you went down a military route and very rare route.
I mean, people who start their careers as infantry soldiers crawling around in the mud don't typically
end up like this.
Yeah, and that's fair. I get that. I think a number of things. One, I was born poor, welfare family, single parent family. You know, secondhand clothing, all that sort of stuff. That's why I enjoy tailor-made clothing, because it's different to the secondhand clothing with that secondhand clothing smell that I grew up with. The clothes for me are a symbol of that poor kid manifesting something better. It's a lot more than clothes.
It's communication.
Yeah, definitely. It's symbolic of the progress involved. So that deep hunger, and I don't know how to find that. I mean, if I was born with money, maybe I wouldn't have that hunger. But from a very early age, I was angry at my situation, and I knew I could do better. And that's something I think Tate, inspires in people. Young men who want to do better, get angry. It's okay to be angry. Get to the gym. Get boxing. Get that hunger to every day do the right thing.
But is anger being emotional? Or do you think it can?
I think it can be. Okay, I don't think it should be like a
unsolicited.
So when you turn on, the garden hose and it sort of flaps around, it shouldn't be like that. Your anger should be a laser point that is sustainable. It's a slow burn fire that guides you every day. So get in touch with that anger and that positive anger, that positive intensity to make your life better.
Like a fire inside your belly.
And all these young guys who want to have a better life, but they have time for TV or they have time for video games. I'm 40 years old. Alhamdulillah, I'm financially independent. I have accolades, status, whatever. I don't have time for video games. I don't have time for TV. I haven't sat down and watched a full episode of TV for as long as I can remember. If you're some young guy who wants to change your life, you don't have time for these things even more than me. What are you doing? And so I speak quite openly against that. I speak openly against things like pornography. A man's sexual energy, if we can say this, is power. Why would you waste it with something like pornography?
It's life force.
Take that life force and channel it towards bettering your life, towards building capacity to add value to society. Things like video games. People want to shoot and drive on video games. Get your money right and go and learn how to shoot and drive in real life. Why people are outsourcing their masculinity to the virtual world, I'll never understand. If you want to have a lot, sexual interactions with beautiful women, do it in real life. Build yourself to be that man. If you want to be a bad guy living a GTA lifestyle who's driving cars and shooting, do it in the real world. I don't understand how young men nowadays can outsource their masculinity like that. And I might annoy a lot of people here. Watching ball sports, what are you doing?
No, I can't agree with you, honestly.
No, I mean it. Like, if you want to be a hero, do it in your own life. Don't go and watch someone else. Oh, look how well he kicked that ball. Yay, he's amazing. Develop that capacity yourself. I do not understand the outsourcing of your desire to achieve and do cool things as a man to the virtual world or to a football team. Build it in your own life.
They're externalizing the happiness, by watching, by saying that if this team wins, I'll be happy, and if this player scores,
it's my team. No, it's not.
Yeah,
they don't know you exist. It's not real. You don't know you. You don't own the team.
You have no relation to them. So, it's funny. I heard this quote. This girl, she's like, wearing a football jersey and watching the team play and wearing that same jersey is like wearing scrubs and watching an episode of Grey's Anatomy or like a show about a doctor.
Exactly.
Like, would you ever wear scrubs and watch a doctor?
There it is. That's it. So I think that's the key point. Be ferociously angry at your life situation and channel that daily to improve it. Yeah, and don't outsource your masculinity to anyone. Okay. Build your own life. I'd have to say number 2 is the right brothers around you. So key. So key. And again, when the Tates came into my life, I had a job and I had, a few side hustles. Very quickly, based on their level of output, I picked up my level of output, and then I had a whole bunch of side hustles and a whole bunch of businesses. So you realize what is possible in terms of your output as a human when you have other high-performing men around you. So that's absolutely key. How to find those men? for me, the war room was hugely useful. Now, I speak openly about Tate's organisation, the war room, because for me, that is the single most powerful and efficient way to find high-frequency men who are specialists in their field, who have the same belief systems as you, who are pushing every day to better their realities in the war room. And so I've actually, I put in a fair amount of time on...
You've been in the war room probably from day one, right?
I mean, yeah,
From, like,
pretty
early
early on. And
stages,
I helped build it. I mentor a lot of guys inside. I put hours every day into, voice notes back and forth with the guys inside. I do what I can to contribute. That's my brotherhood. That's my tribe. I contribute as much as I can. And I'm actually now, I devote a bit of time each day into answering DMs on Instagram. But there's so many, I can't answer them all. So if people have questions about the war room, write to me with war room and then your question on Instagram, and I'll endeavor to respond. It won't be immediate, but I'll get there. Because I really believe in this brotherhood. The way I put it, it's a bit of a funny thing to say on camera, but imagine... in a completely non-sexual way, Tinder, but for finding brothers. It's the best men in your area. No homo. No homo.
Best man in your area.
In a completely halal manner.
You're with me, bro. This is a joke.
I'm not. Maybe we have to cut this out. Maybe it doesn't sound good. But
no, I'm not.
In the same way that if you try and find brothers manually by meeting people, you'd have to meet 10,000 guys to find a few reliable brothers.
True.
The war room's done that for you. It's been that filter of quality men who are already in the war room, especially the guys who've proved themselves in the war room. They are the top men that you will have in your city or in your country. Or it's powerful. I went to Bangkok recently. There were 30 or 40 war room guys there, all of them hustling, all of them training, all of them with positive relationships in their lives, and all of them pushing for more every day. You get that many high quality men together working at maximum frequency to better their lives, man, the energy in the room is something different. The power in the war room is real. And to your point about success, once you've got your money right, once you've got your fitness right, there are other levels to it. A big part of that is brotherhood, is meaningful work, is having a day-to-day reality where every single component part of your daily reality is exactly how you want it. I refer to it as a custom-made reality. Now, if you're working on that, we talk about quality problems. We talk about customized, clothes and cars and all this fun adventures with the boys. I know a lot of rich people who don't have time to go on adventures with the boys.
Hiking.
Everyone in the war room is doing these things together.
Nice.
Man, it's so powerful. And a lot of people, once they join the war room, they say, you know what? I was lonely before this. I had one or two mates who I caught up with occasionally. Now I have dozens, if not hundreds of men around the world. I can travel to any city and I find a guy who I can connect with. He's got his contacts there. He's got that local knowledge. If I want to set up a business, or if I want to buy property, if I want a good lawyer to help me structure my finances properly, it's all there. The power of the war room ties into my second point. You need the right brothers around you. You need the right brothers around you. And if you think you can do that by yourself, all right, try. The war room has already done it. It's very powerful. So yeah, that undying hunger to succeed and disciplined decisions daily is point one. Secondly is that right brothers around you, and war room delivers that. The third, I think, now, I don't want to sound like I'm pushing too hard for the dawah here, but I think Islam is one of the most powerful ways to really supercharge your discipline as a man. Yeah. And let's face it, in today's day and age, especially for young men, there's a lot of distraction. You can access endless pornography on your phone. People can access drugs, the hookup culture. You could have endless, meaningless intimacy with a new woman every day if you wanted to. Yeah. What's going to stop young men, especially when the culture's saying, hey, go do it. Go take drugs. Go chase your hedonistic pursuits. What is going to keep young men disciplined in a more powerful way than Islam? Which says, Akhira, day of judgment, every action you take will be judged. You are accountable to God. There is a very clear code. A lot of people don't realize who haven't studied or practiced Islam. It's more than what people perceive a religion to be. It is a structure, and it is a disciplined way of life. It's a perspective with which to view your daily life, and it's also a way to carry out your daily interactions with people, your daily routines. Even the act of praying regularly. What a fantastic way to remind yourself about what matters and what doesn't, to avoid all the distractions of dunya, all the complications of fitra that we have all around us. So for me, any young man who was really serious about being the best version of himself and living a very disciplined life and attaining success well above the material, attaining that fulfillment where you're living a good, meaningful life, living on the straight path, I think Islam has a very, very important role to play in building that ultimate custom-made reality. So they're the 3 points to answer your question.
That's really good to hear, man. And it's so refreshing to hear it from someone who's like obviously a revert, and
I think reverts, and because I've spoken to a lot of reverts, I think they have a different way of viewing Islam because they've chosen it. And also, as the journey of a revert, especially if you're in the West, Islam is not presented in a positive fashion.
It's the opposite.
So reverts from the West have seen something that's put forward negatively, done their own research and actually
Yeah.
decided, hang on, this is positive to the point where I want to be a part of this and I want to commit to it. You can't undo Shahada. It's a one-way trip, right? In a positive sense. And so I think the reverts who I've interacted with, it's really beautiful because they've consciously decided to give up certain things, to make certain sacrifices, and to live with a certain structure. And I think reverts are very consciously aware of how fortunate they are to have Islam. Whereas if you're born into Islam, maybe, and you haven't been through that conscious journey, maybe you don't know how lucky you are to have it.
Honestly, those 3 points pretty much summarize what you would need to be successful. Interesting question, which I actually forgot to ask you, which is I'm really curious about now. How exactly did you meet Andrew?
Okay, so I had a task on in Romania. I didn't know anyone in Romania.
And how long ago was it? Sorry,
this was 5 years ago.
Okay.
I connected with him on social media. So I said, hey, I just messaged him and said, do you know anyone who can help with this situation? He supported. So I said, I have a weapons and tactics training facility in Ukraine. I'd love to host you and your brother. More of as a throwaway comment than anything.
But was he famous at that time?
Not really. He had like 300K followers on Instagram. And he said, okay, let's do it. I'm like, oh, okay, bro. Yes, soon. He's like, no, when can we do it? And so he was really keen to come over and train. And through that process of putting him and his brother through some pretty intense days of weapons and tactics training, I saw a very heightened level of mental and physical capability. I mean, you put someone on a range, you do pretty dynamic live fire drills, when it's safe to do so. You can see someone's character pretty clearly. I was like, all right, these guys are about it. And then when we sat and spoke at the end of that, it was clear to me that the insights they were channeling were so important that I had a role to play in the overall health of masculinity globally, of humanity.
Right.
And I said to them back then, your message is so important. Anything I can do to support with my network, with my skills, I'd love to do that. And here we are. So I'm not surprised that I didn't know they'd get this famous, but the importance of their message is what had me come on team, so to speak, and want to support them. The cars, the lifestyle, that stuff comes and goes, man. Yeah, it's limited. How many cars do you need? There's a limit to that. But having a positive impact on society through the importance of Tate's message, that to me is what I'm here for.
Did you ever meet his dad, or his dad passed away before you knew him?
No, his dad passed away. I feel like I know his dad because he talks about his dad so much. But I never had the honor of meeting him. No.
Question for you, and it's very random. Like, you are a very masculine man. Is it manly to cry, or is it bad to cry? Like,
funny one, bro. I think it's healthy to express emotions, and if you hold on to emotions, you can get sick. I think that's an energetic frequency thing. I adjusted my view of men crying based on my converting to Islam, because when I took Shahada, the sheikh at my local mosque, and man, he's a masculine dude. I'm pretty sure if he needed to, he could throw
beard, everything.
He could throw down. Like, he's a masculine dude. He cried. He shed a tear.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy. How many Shahadas would have he facilitated? But it still brings him to the point of crying. And also in the masjid, I've said this before, there are people crying in there because their connection with God is so powerful. So I thought, what, maybe it's okay to cry. And when Tate was released, I did cry quite heavily because there was just so much emotion there to see my brother finally getting out of jail. So I think it's a good thing, mate. I don't think you should cry out of weakness. Get the job done.
But if you're cheering up right now, man.
Yeah, well, I care about those brothers. It was an amazing moment to see them come out. I don't think you should cry out of weakness. I don't think men should be vulnerable. I don't agree with that. But if you are crying due to a connection with your faith, if you are crying due to a connection with your brothers and something important happening, I think it's healthy. I really do. Yeah, that's how I'd put that. Excuse the emotion, mate.
No,
but this whole thing with the Tates being away has been terrible, man, on many levels. One, because it's my brothers, and two, because it's wrong. I know who they are. I've been around them. I know what they have or haven't done. I've been in their house. To see them do 3 months of prison for something they didn't do, to go down for lies, brother, if that doesn't get you emotional, what does? You know what I mean? So again, I don't mean to bring emotion into this, but yeah, that for me was a pretty. When they got out, alhamdulillah, what a beautiful moment, man.
Yeah,
amazing.
I can imagine.
And when they finally get to Dubai, man, that's gonna be a beautiful moment soon, inshallah.
Inshallah, I'm excited, man. I missed their videos, man. I honestly, when they went inside, it was so long that like I didn't hear any I didn't see any videos of them, you know, and so sad. And even I kind of saw some people like obviously strong fan base was still there, but some people are kind of forgetting about it and talking about the next thing. And and it was so sad to see how quickly people will not only forget you but even switch up and go against you. And
man, it was interesting. A lot of people before Tate went on the Romanian funded unplanned holiday, if you will, before he was imprisoned wrongly, as history will show when we move forward. everyone wanted a piece of Tate. Everyone. And a lot of people contact me, right? Because they know I'm close to Tate. Every day, hey, want a piece of Tate, want to be around Tate, want to speak to Tate. As soon as he was down, poof, silence. Except for a few people. And those few people have been well noticed by myself, by Tate. And when Tate comes out, obviously he's going to be even more famous. Anyone who supported him, he will be showing gratitude. Because that's when you can see the real character of a person.
Of course, when you're in hard times.
Exactly. And man, again, I don't want to give myself props, but at no moment...
You should.
No, I don't think so. I think anyone in my position would have. I've had consequences. I've had people make threats against my family. I've been doxxed. I've had all sorts of nonsense. People trying to interrupt my professional life, all these things. I don't care. Bring whatever hate you need to. He's my brother. I know what he has and hasn't done. And at the end of the day, let's say I get fired and cancelled. Fine. I'll train with my brothers. I'll go to the masjid. I'll play chess. You cannot cancel a man who has a strong relationship with God. Call me nasty things on Twitter. Like I care. I can walk across the street and speak to God. I can speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Cancel me. See if I care. You know what I mean? There's power there. So yeah, I believe I'm genuinely uncancelable now. So people can come at me with whatever they want. I'm going to continue to support Tate because I know the truth. It's that simple. And I think anyone else who is a true brother and has been around him, they have the exact same mindset. All right, fine, cancel me. I'm going to stand up for what's true, what I know to be true. All these experts trying to analyze Tate, most of them haven't even met him. Shame on you for thinking you know the man well enough to try and label him with these negative titles, having never even met him. What, based on something he said on the internet?
Yeah. When
we know that he's mastered the attention economy, and he did it consciously.
And it was all short form clips anyways. They didn't even listen to his long form to judge him, you know?
Man, you walk around with Tate, maybe you've even seen it. How many men come up to him, and women too, saying, your message has positively impacted my life. It's constant.
Yeah.
And so when I see people saying these negative things about Tate, when the reality is everyone comes up to him and says, hey man, you've changed my life, I have to speak up. We all do. You
were talking about the story when you met him. That first interaction, did you know that this person would become the person that he is today?
I knew he had an important role to play in offsetting wokeism, offsetting modern day degeneracy. And I knew that he would continue to build a following based on the positive words that he's... I mean, there's a lot of people out there who speak about what's wrong with the world. And this is where the red pill thing, our relationships are no good, traditional values are gone, a man, shouldn't, or like the MGTOW movement, all these different things. There's a lot of different people preaching different pills you can take, the red pill, but they call out the problems. Some of what Tate was putting forward is the solutions. Work harder. If you think relationships nowadays are terrible and you can't find good women, work harder on yourself. Be disciplined. Crush it in every area of your life. Become a high-level man, and then you'll find a high-level woman. So I always thought Tate is putting forward the solution to many of the problems in today's day and age. And now I see Islam as the ultimate solution to many of the problems in the world. Everyone talks about taking the red pill. Why not take the green pill? That's where the answers are, man. I quite like that concept.
Nice.
But to come back to your question, I knew Tate's message was important, and I knew I had again specific skills that I could add to helping protect him and helping get that message out there. I didn't know he'd become this much of a cultural icon. He is a cultural icon at this point. He's bigger than one man. He is a symbol. Am I surprised by it happening? No. The power of the positive elements of his message, which is 99% of what he talks about, it's got nothing to do with women or negativity. It's positivity, right?
Yeah.
It's self-discipline, self-accountability. Exactly. So I'm not surprised at all that he became this famous, and he'll continue to be this famous because he has a very positive role to play for the youth of today and for humanity as a whole.
I have a question for me. What I noticed when I was younger, I like to relax a bit more. As a kid, obviously, I like to enjoy, meet friends, go out, And I've noticed as I've become more of someone who's ambitious and more older, and I feel like I really have to be making good progress on my goals. I've tried to always keep this kind of focus on my goals, Every time I was getting distracted, I'd remind myself, need to focus on my goals. And I feel like this is kind of a thing that happens in your mind that once it kind of switches on, it's very hard to switch off because you're talking about relaxing. I was just thinking about it. I know that now, honestly, if I spend 5 minutes and I feel like I'm not being productive, there's a feeling inside of me what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. I need to get to do something productive. And as much as that's a good thing, I'm also kind of wary of, living a life where I'm never able to switch off for a second. You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely.
And I do feel like with that with Andrew as well. But I feel like with him, it's very much he doesn't want to switch off. He's happy. But for me, I feel like I was not innately like this.
Yeah.
This is something that I've made myself I've turned myself into a beast, that I don't know if I want to stay this way.
Definitely. And I think, we all have our own ability to choose the way we want to live our life as long as you're doing it consciously. Andrew wants to work constantly forever and will do that for the rest of his life. I would say I've worked so hard in the past that I have had health impact on that.
Of course, because your job is like, a lot of travel, a lot of trauma.
I don't know about that. I'm pretty comfortable in war zone. There are safe ways to operate in dangerous countries, or risk managed ways to operate in dangerous countries. A lot of time not sleeping right, not eating right. A lot of disruption to daily routines and so on. I think work high output, be that maximum output man, but you've got to keep your health right. And so we want to chase, I want X amount of productive hours. I want, build quality teams. I want to hit certain financial goals. You need to conceptualize a health goal, such as I need to get one massage a week, and view it as important as any other area of business. I need to train every day. And view that.
You get a massage every week?
Of course, yeah. Nice. I have to keep my body going.
Yeah.
I got some issues from the army days, mate. Some pretty serious injuries. Do a certain amount of rehab if you need to for injuries, and view that as you would any other task in your business world. It is that important. Because when your health falls over, that's all you've got. But everyone forgets that until their health falls over. So what I would say is maximum output, maximum hustle, but include maintaining health as one of your business key performance indicators, one of the deliverables that you have to deliver.
Yeah, when you feel good, you do good. Like when you feel good, you're able to work harder. Your mind is more clear.
And then things like sleep hygiene. If you don't look at your phone for half an hour, and for example, do what I do, read the Quran or read some sort of something that helps you as a person, you will sleep so much deeper and you'll be so much more efficient the next day. So healthy habits should be a part of your grind for success. That's how I view it. It's not, now I'm working, now I'm relaxing. It's like, no, things like prayer, things like sleep hygiene, things like studying Islam are part of my daily hustle and a part of me being successful as a man. It's not on or off. It's on all the time and including things that help me stay healthy within that on all the time, if that makes sense, bro.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, have you had many near-death experiences when you were growing up? I don't know, obviously you can't talk too much about your job, but have you had many near-death experiences, or how close has it been? Or have you always been very able to stay kind of safe?
No, I've made mistakes, and I've been in situations where I thought I was going to die, definitely. I saw the first shots of the Yemen war with my own eyes. Physically, I saw them from the roof of the facility that I was in at the time. I've been in situations where I've made the wrong call and genuinely thought I was going to die, definitely.
And many people have died because of those calls. Has that happened?
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate. Obviously, I've lost mates, and that's always that's something that will get you reflecting on life pretty deeply. But as a general rule, the people that I work with are, we are capable. We keep each other alive. And again, I'm management nowadays, so something has to go very wrong for me to be exposed to any risk nowadays. But yeah, I've definitely been in
the early stages. Yeah,
I've been in many situations where I've had artillery shells landing in a facility that I'm in, and not being able to hear properly for numerous days afterwards. I've had rounds hit the wall next to me, and I've been in many situations where afterwards you see that there was a high likelihood of you dying. I don't really speak about this stuff openly because, first of all, a lot of people have done a lot more serious stuff in the military than me. Let them have their war stories and their glory. I'm a private security professional, so I don't need to carry myself and talk about a bunch of war stories and things. I'm grateful for my experience in the military and the stuff that I did afterwards. It taught me a lot. And also, I like to be a person who brings value now. Not, I used to be this or I used to do that and I have this story. I have capabilities now. I have a global network now. I have a proven capacity to be level-headed even when there are artillery shells landing, literally on top of me. I've got that demonstrated track record to be the guy who can make sound decisions under extreme pressure. That's the value I bring now. Why do I need to talk about what I did in the past?
I like that.
But also, again, I'm not trying to come across as some special guy with some mysterious past. I'm not interested in that. I'm a capable person now, and I'm a capable professional now. That's why you won't hear me bring out a bunch of stories. Yeah. Again, with respect to guys who did.
No, I like that though.
It's just that's not my style.
Yeah. It's interesting, and that's quite a noble choice because it makes sense what you're saying. Like you don't want to talk about this and this experience in the past, or like try
And
to
also, a lot of guys have done a lot more. Like, I've got a lot of mates who look. I broke my body in the military. I have significant spinal injuries, which I carry to this day, which is challenging. But I've got mates who've broken their minds. I've got mates who've broken their entire lives.
So many.
you know?
Why do so many ex-military people like go on and like they do drugs, or like maybe they saw some stuff?
A lot of alcohol. I think I haven't really spoken about this on camera, and I don't want to offend any of my brothers, but I think when you are in sharp ends of the military and you do certain things that involve danger and death, both death of your friends and death of, you know, the combatants that you're, you know, fighting against, or, you know, worst case scenario, non-combatants. I think afterwards you question, why did that happen? And typically speaking, once you are out of the military, you start to think, hang on a second, maybe all these Hollywood movies that tell me I should go off and fight, maybe all this programming that, you know, it's our duty to bring freedom to various countries. Maybe it's not real. Maybe the military-industrial complex is the reason why people go to war. And again, I don't want to. I mean, I've lost a lot of mates, and I am grateful for their sacrifice, because they did something they believed in.
Of course,
These were young men.
Their intention.
Nia. These were young men doing what they thought was right. But when you get out of the military and perhaps you get a bit disenfranchised with the system and with the government, and you think, hang on, why did I go through all that? Why did I see my mates die for something that, in terms of the reason, I now think, well, hang on, why were we even in that country? That is what breaks a man. It's not the combat, it's not the stress, it's the questioning of why did I do those things? Perhaps the meaning that I thought I had doing those things was manufactured and not genuine. And I've lost mates, or I've had injuries, or I've been, you know, I've done things I regret for a meaning that wasn't actually real. That's what breaks people's brains, in my experience.
That's so interesting.
Well, think about it, man.
Yeah,
when you're going to a war zone as a soldier, you got your brothers around you, you're hyped up, you believe you're doing the right thing. You'll kick down doors, you do very aggressive things. 10 years later,
it's shattering when it all comes.
You start to think, oh, hang on a sec, what was the point of that war?
Yeah.
That war lasted for decades, and
People
what was
died.
the outcome? What was the benefit? To me, that's what leads to PTSD. And again, with all respect to all of my current and former serving brothers, those men believe what they're doing. They believe they're doing the right thing.
Of course.
I think what hurts and what breaks brains afterwards is when they start to question, wait a sec, was that really the right thing? And again, I don't want to disrespect anyone here, because I have a lot of respect for my brothers in uniform and veterans. But that's a hard realization to have.
Hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about Islam, and honestly, the discipline, like you said, that you get when you're in the religion of Islam. Like, I know for me, I sleep kind of late, so after Fajr I still have to go back to sleep. I'm not able to like stay awake until and like go to work at that time. So I wake up at like 9, 10. But that discipline of like at 4 a.m, you know, at the brink of dawn, you have to take out your blanket, the room is cold, you have to go in and wash your face, wash your arms, and now it's like you go back in the room and it's freezing, you know. But after you like dry off and you start to say Allahu Akbar, and there's a very good feeling of peace. And it's like nowadays it's coming out of the things of like intermittent fasting, and the things like wake up at sunrise and meditate, you know, or wake up at sunrise and in the quietness and have a peaceful moment alone, you know. It's literally what Islam was talking about ages ago. So I want to ask you, for you, Joule, how has your life changed since you've joined Islam? What difference have you felt in your life? And how long have you been Muslim for, by the way?
A couple of months now.
Okay.
Although I studied Islam for a good 5 years. Man, 2004, when I first came to the Middle East, I had people trying to get me to convert. So it's not a new thing for me. It's been a slow process. Love to answer that question as to what's changed. First of all, something you said there. I think there's a real power there. You said there's an inner calm when you pray. For me, I feel like every time I go to the mosque, I feel like I'm supercharging. I mean, it's a bit of a metaphysical thing, but I leave refreshed. And nowadays, people will meditate or they'll do certain things to get that. Islam's been doing it for thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly.
You talk about intermittent fasting. Nowadays, it's a fad. Oh, you should fast. Islam's been doing it for thousands of years. Even to the point where the amount of times I've read, because I try to read every day, the amount of times I've read something, either in the Quran or in, you know, associated texts, and gone, oh, wow, I've been thinking that for years, and here it is written hundreds of years ago. One example, the idea of niyyah, the idea of the intent that you have in your heart when you approach a certain task. I figured out about 10 years ago, the underlying intention behind you do a certain task will dictate the outcome. For example, if you're chasing money and you're hungry for that money, and you'll you know, do unethical stuff to get it, and you need it for unhealthy reasons. You're coming from a mindset of scarcity. Your path to money is going to be a very messy one. You might get that money, but it's going to be a mess. If you're hungry for that money because you want to look after your family, you want to add value to society, you feel, look, I am worthy of abundance, your path to money will be a positive one.
Yeah.
So I had realized how important niyyah is, that intent through which you approach certain tasks, before I even read about niyyah in Islam. And then when I read about it, I was like, oh, I already believe this.
Nice.
But it took me 30 years to figure it out.
Yeah.
I've had moments like that dozens and dozens of times, as have my other revert friends. They're like, it took me 30, 40 years to figure this out. Islam figured this out hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. Why didn't I just study Islam earlier?
Right.
Does that make sense? There's so much
100%.
to be discovered there. It's amazing. So I'm really enjoying, the more I read, the more I want to read. Because there's power there, man. It's genuine life value adding power within, the body of literature that Muslims study every day. So that's very powerful. As to what's changed in my life, I find less of a focus on material gains and more of a focus on how do I make more time to pray? How do I make more time to read the Quran and to have, I really value the discussions that I have with my Muslim brothers. I've had so much support from people around the world. The people know who they are. People genuinely wanting to help me find good guidance and learn. It's a beautiful thing. So what has changed in my life? I've gotten a lot less of a focus on material wins and more of a focus on how do I practice this faith earnestly, because I truly believe in the value that comes from doing so. I am trying to structure my life now so that I have less hours of work and more time that I can devote to my faith. So that's one major change. And also, man, just a feeling of gratitude. I try to get to the masjid every day. I live across the road. Alhamdulillah, it's pretty easy. I just walk across, which is quite a beautiful thing. We want to talk about Qadr Allah. For the longest of time, I thought it was cool to be across from the masjid. I've always respected Islam. But now as a practicing Muslim, bro, it's 100 meters. It's perfect.
And you hear the call to prayer.
Exactly. I say, all right, put the phone down, walk over. Yeah. It's beautiful. So, that's
the call to prayer is so beautiful. The voice that the muaddin has when he goes.
It hits on a deep level when you're practicing earnestly. But all the things that I've given up, great. So I don't drink anymore. Alcohol's poison. Good. I can tell Tristan Tate, sorry buddy, I'm not having that drink because of my faith. It's poison. So I like that I'm not drinking. I like that I have a structured day that involves regularly putting down the phones and reminding myself what matters and what doesn't.
To be alone
with salah. Yeah, exactly. A time where your heart can be still. I think it's very healthy.
We don't have it in modern day. We go inside the car, loud music, finish that, there's no time for reflection.
Constant stimulus and constant pull towards dunya as opposed to being pulled towards that which is deeper and more meaningful in life.
Yeah, and there's a good quote one scholar says, which is like you can chase the limited or the unlimited.
I like that.
And when you chase deen, like at the end of the day, this life is short, very short, and that's where the real eternity is going to be spent.
And I'm still working on that because for me, I feel like my daily life is a form of utopia. I literally, every area of my life, from the relationships I have to the work to the contributions I make to society, is so wonderful that every day in the mosque I'm giving gratitude. So the idea that there's an even better life after this, I'm still reflecting on that, because I'm pretty grateful with how I am.
But that's good because, a lot of the bad traits that someone has is actually the hell that they make for themselves, So sometimes, like, if you're a jealous person, then that's a punishment you're giving yourself. If you're an angry person, it's a punishment you're giving yourself.
Makes sense.
So I think that you've maybe reached quite a high stage in like attributes wise. You know?
I've always been very conscious of how to interact in a positive way. And man, karma is real. Like if you put out negative energies to people, it's going to come back at you. That's really true.
It says in the Quran, if you do one atom of good, you will see it. And if you do one atom, a level of bad, you will see it. It literally says atom, like the word translates to atom.
Isn't that interesting? Nowadays, like, everyone's talking about all this modern day spirituality. The underlying truth is written in a more efficient way in a book that's 1400 years old.
That was the miracle of the prophet. Like every other prophet had a miracle. Like the other prophets could make a stick turn into a snake or like something like that. The prophet's miracle was his book, his Quran, which is,
you channel that age-old
it's
knowledge,
so deep.
Which is,
if you
read something that's 1400 years old, right? It is so relevant to today. I feel it's even more relevant than ever before. It's incredible. Like with this wokeism push, this degeneracy, this trend for men to follow modern culture and just become useless creatures who can't even look after themselves or their family. There's a book that's 1400 years old, which gives you a system with which to follow and live a meaningful life. So you can reject all that modern day culture, all the hedonism, all the rubbish, and it's been there before any of us. Like that's power, man. I think that is a miracle, to your point. So how has my life changed? Everything that I've cut out, I'm happy that I've cut out. All of the new habits that I've developed are very positive in terms of salah, in terms of all these things. Man, I'm very grateful for Islam. And even my kids, I have them 1 week every couple of months. They fly over from the country they live in. I have them because they live with their mother, my ex. Now, I'd never push religion on kids. I think it's up to them to choose themselves. However, I said, Dad's going to the mosque. If you want to join, you can. I didn't incentivize it, didn't say there's an ice cream afterwards. And they both said, yes, I'd like to. So took my 8-year-old daughter, my 10-year-old son, we walked across the road, we did the ablutions. Nice. My son got completely wet, so we had to change his pants, change his pants, got a bit too much water involved. Funny. And they went in there, and it was, they prayed next to me. It was quite beautiful.
The first time ever.
First time, yep. And afterwards, I said, how was that? And they said, yeah, it was good, Papa. It felt nice. Well, that's cool. And again, I'd never push it on them. It's their decision. Right. My parenting is such that I will guide you to make your own decisions in life. I think that's very important. Your life is your life.
And you lead by example.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very good.
But then the next day, my son says, when are we going to the mosque, Papa? I'm like, really? You want to go again? He says, yes, I do. The day after that, my daughter says, when are we going to the mosque, Papa? They loved it.
Nice.
Now, again, I'm not pushing it on them in any way, but even as kids, they felt the value of salah.
Yeah.
They felt that the beauty and the way you were able to tap into something bigger than yourself through salah. So that to me speaks to the power of it. It's just every single component of my life that I've either let go of or that I've adopted in terms of new ways of living is just incredibly positive. So I have a very strong gratitude for Islam, and I'm committed to continuing to learn and to practice as earnestly and as accurately as I can, because I see the power in that. I see the benefits, both for me and the people in my circle and society as a whole, through practicing Islam very literally and very earnestly.
Yeah.
It's real. Like I'm grateful for it,
It's nice. And especially if you go to the deeper meaning of salah, there's books literally written about just the one prayer and just all the different elements of it and why you do each element. Like if you see the Allahu Akbar, right? It means Allah is the greatest. And what do? You do this, And why you do this? Because it's a sign of submission.
Yep.
So when you start, you say Allahu Akbar when you're submitting. And the last thing you say before you end the salah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So you're saying peace to everybody. Literally, you're sending peace to literally every single soul on the planet. So
it's so positive.
Any resentment that you have towards anyone, any trouble that you've given yourself because someone's upset you, or you're basically sending peace to everyone, And it's literally the opposite of what's been told about Islam. It's literally the complete opposite. So if you analyze each and every, there's also when you stand up and you say Bihawlillah, you're saying with the strength from God, I'm able to stand up. It's very, very, very deep. And
bro, I love it. And even the things that you're conceptualizing every day, talking about the fact that shaitan is there, and as you enter the mosque, you're saying, protect me from shaitan.
100%.
That's important.
You need to remind yourself,
because the evil does exist in this world, and there are many forces trying to infect your mind, infect your routine, limit you as a person. It's good to say, please help me, guide me away from evil.
Right.
Man, there is so much pure logical sense in all the different routines and structures in Islam. It really is built in a way to make you the best version of yourself. And if you think you can do it better, all right, fine, good luck to you. Or you can tap into something that is centuries old that now 2 billion people are following. There's value there.
Yeah.
Again, if you're arrogant enough to think you can figure out the best way to live a life by yourself, good luck to you. I have studied and consciously chosen Islam because in my mind it's clear that this is the superior way with which to approach both perceiving the human condition and life and living out your life. It's so clear to me.
I have some du'as which I'm going to send you after this. There's one very good one called Dua Abu Hamza Tamari, and I'm going to send it to you. But anyways, to move on, I wanted to ask you and Tate often say that the West is a failing society.
Oh yeah.
So why do you say that?
I mean, look, Tate was screaming this 5 years ago when I first met him, right? Ijtima fashil. Yeah, is that how you say it in Arabic? I need more time to practice my Arabic. Fail society. I think humans need dogma.
And now it's happening, by the way. So it's you stay predicted it.
Yeah. People need dogma. People need guidance. And they're going to get that guidance from something external to them. Now, it can be the government, if we're looking like a communist system and the government tells you how to live and you must view the leader as if he's some kind of god. It can be culture. Worship these celebrities, worship, hedonism. Your guidance in life.
Go to Coachella.
Yeah, exactly. Your guidance, your religion can be chasing hedonism. It can be chasing immediate fulfillment. But I think the most important way the truest and most powerful way to find guidance, find that dogma for life and how to live life is from religion, something that's hundreds of years old. And I think anyone who practices any religion earnestly is going to be a better human, and therefore society will be a better society than if you're just, being led by your own desires and your own selfish needs. The West has become a largely godless place. And because we have no accountability to a higher force, people are just free to go and chase their hedonistic pursuits and be selfish and treat each other like rubbish because they don't believe in Akhira, the day of judgment. Do whatever you want. And so that's why you see increasingly polarized societies, you see high divorce rates, you see broken families, you see higher rates of people living on antidepressants. All these things are a sign of a godless society and a broken society. And that's why we can see Middle East, Dubai, that's becoming Europe. That is the safe place where you want to raise your kids. That is the place you can walk down the street and not worry about personal safety, or you can put your kids into school and not worry about certain sexual agendas being pushed on them. This part of the world, because it is a society driven by faith with an underpinning of respect for a higher power, accountability, and leaders who think that way as well. I think it's very important to have leaders who are strongly religious people, because if you have a godless leader, he's just going to do what's best for him.
Right.
So I think the West is a failed society. And one of the first things Tate said to me, and when I realized that this guy has insights to share, he said, what we're seeing in the West right now, which is leading this failed society, is the way a man and a woman interact is being interrupted. The natural order of women and men interacting is being disrupted. That will lead to disrupted families. Disrupted families lead to disrupted communities. Disrupted communities lead to, disruption at the societal level. That's where you get the failed society. If you interrupt the way a man and a woman interact, if you confuse traditional gender norms, if you fight against the sacredness of the family unit, and you have, for example, laws that incentivize divorce, all these sorts of things, that is on the macro level going to interrupt society, and that's what you see happening in the West.
Last question then, before we wrap this off. How do you deal with death and losing all those friends? How is this? Because for me, I'm very inexperienced in that field. Both my grandparents are alive on both sides, like two. My mom, my dad. I don't really have anyone close to me really that passed away, and I have deep fear of that day. I don't know how I'm gonna deal with it. And I want to ask you, because you've probably experienced it a lot. I don't know if your parents are alive.
Yeah, no, they're alive.
But I'm sure your grandparents.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced some things that I'm not going to talk about because I wouldn't be.
No, of course, but like my advice for like someone else.
Yeah, so what I'd say is, I mean, in the past I just get very angry. When I'd find out a mate had died, or been killed in action, or something had gone wrong, I'd get super angry. But now I would turn to Islam, Qadr Allah.
Yeah.
Now it's a hard thing to swallow, but I genuinely believe that we all have a life path that is mapped out for us. Some of those life paths are long and peaceful. Some of them are short and intense.
Right.
And man, bad things happen in this world. So I'd reframe it. Instead of being afraid of death, I'd be conscious of the fact that death is coming, and therefore you need to do the best you can every day. And there's no guarantee for tomorrow. And that's why I like the concept of memento mori, of a skull. And I know that perhaps it's haram, so I need to read more into that. But I have a lot of art in my house that are skulls, because for me that reminds me, when I see that, one day I'll be dead. Yeah. Memento mori, reminder of your mortality.
Reminder of your death.
Bruv, don't be afraid of death. Let your awareness of death inform how you interact. For example, you're afraid of your parents dying, so make the time to see them. When you see them, give them full focus. Don't be caught up on a phone.
True.
Keep in mind, the people you love could be dead tomorrow, so give them your full attention. Prioritize them. Keep in mind, you could be dead tomorrow.
True.
So get the most out of this life today and be the best man that you can today. Achieve the most, give back the most you can to your people today. So I think, fear of death can be a healthy thing if you enable it, or if you use it to motivate you to be the best person you can and get the most out of your interactions with your loved ones every day.
I like that you keep that thought in mind.
100%.
Because for us in Islam, I don't know about the skull thing. I've checked on that. I think it's fine, but for us,
I think as long as you don't worship it, it's okay.
Yeah. So for us in Islam, big tradition is going to the graveyard. And I spoke about this recently on a podcast.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So very big tradition in Islam is they say like every Thursday you should go to the graveyard And my relatives back in Africa, they go every morning. Like my dad, he goes once a week, but my relatives in Africa, they go every single morning.
That's not interesting.
Yeah, and when they obviously now they have some family there and stuff, but even if you don't, as a practice, like going there, like for me, when I go there, if you go to the graveyard in Dubai, you'll see there's a lot of benches, a lot of like seating around. You'll see a lot of people there at all times, you know, and people come and sit and they do like a prayer for them, and it's multifold the benefits. They say like even there's meditations that's like love and kindness meditation, you know, when you try to show love to someone, it makes you feel good.
Yep.
So
it's an energy thing. It's a positive energy.
So when you sit there with the dead people and you pray for them, that they, even though you may not even know them, but you pray that their families are okay and dealing with their loss well, and that they're going to be okay in their afterlife, it makes you feel good. And then also obviously as a reminder, just that one day I will end up right there, you know, sometimes I can even picture myself like being, because I've been to many funerals, and it's very recommended in Islam to go for the funerals, right? So we go like, whenever someone in the community, in Islam, very strong sense of community, right? So whenever someone in the community or in the local mosque dies, everyone's there at the funeral. And you know, when you see the ritual in Islam is very beautiful. Like you see, we actually have the actual burial happen in front of us. So we see the body go inside, and then the sand, we throw the sand, and we all actually help to do the burial, you know.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's, you sometimes you think like you will literally end up here very soon, you know. So
that's super interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, there's so much to learn. I thought before I reverted, I thought I understood Islam pretty well. Now that I'm practicing, I know nothing, man. There's so much to learn, and that's beautiful. And I think Western society typically doesn't have that.
They think you're crazy
with death.
If you go to the graveyard, they think you're crazy.
But also, I think that's part of being a godless society. I think if you are in touch with your faith, and if you're in touch with your humanity, you should be grateful to your forefathers. You should be conscious of the fact, and foremothers, you know, you should be conscious of the fact that people put in a lot of work to make you who you are. Exactly. Tate talks to this. Your forefathers fought off bears and things to enable you to live in such comfort.
True.
So I think it's a very positive thing to do. I think it's a wholly positive thing to do, and people don't do that in the West. You don't really talk about death. Man, like I've lost people very close to me, and in doing that, you find out there is a lot of death in this world, but in the West, people try and ignore it.
Yeah.
Again, to me, that's part of being a godless society. If you're in a society that is founded with faith, you should talk about it. You should pray for those who've come before you. You should remind yourself that, you know, one day you're going to die, so it's up to you to get the most out of every day. That's really positive, man. I thank you. I just learned something.
No worries, man. Yeah, the more I can help, man. It's like the quote: the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and it's true for all of us. Like,
bro, especially with Islam. My goodness,
so
I honestly feel like I like what I'm doing work-wise, because I have numerous ways to support people.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the war room, I give a lot back to the guys. I help them, you know, level up in life. But a part of me would be happy leaving all my professional stuff aside and just studying Islam, because there is pure power there, man. There are so many insights, so much guidance, age-old insights there. If I retire one day and you just don't see me anymore, it's because I've gone off to just devote my life to studying Islam. Nice. There's so much there, man. Objectively speaking, there's so much value there that I wish I had more hours in the day. I know I'm working to make it so that I have more hours every day to learn more about Islam.
Nice. Joule, thank you so much for coming on here. We had a really good talk, and it was actually very interesting. Normally when I sit here, it's just more of me asking questions, but this was actually like a nice conversation. I even learned a lot from it myself. So I appreciate this, my brother. It was great to see you.
Thank you, brother.
It was great to have you.
And props to you, man. At 20 years old, I was walking around in the jungle with a pack on my back. Like, look at what you've created. Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's really impressive.
I appreciate you, man. And you guys, like you and Andrew, are giving me a chance to, you know, make these videos and stuff. So I don't take it for granted, you know.
Fantastic. And when he's out, brother, there'll be much more. Like everyone who's put in energy and put their own name on the line to support Andrew and to know that 100%. He's positive and he's truthful, we're going to try and support as much as we can.
I'll always say it. He is innocent, you know. So. Whatever they want to put on me, they can put on me, brother. Thank you so much, brother. Have a good day. Guys, if you watched this video and you enjoyed it, please smash a like. And in the description, you'll find all Joule's links as well. Links for the Telegram, the War Room, everything. Leave a comment, anything you learned, anything you have to say. We'd love to read those. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Peace.
Thank you.